Hi, I'm Dr. Mila Brujic. Welcome to the OI Show, where we're joined with Dr. Ashley Tucker, and we're going to be talking about researching optometry on this episode of the OI Show.
Are you finding that being a business owner in optometry is getting tougher and tougher every single year? Here's the tough truth. For every hour that we spend with patients, we spend 2 hours on administrative work, from charting, working with our team for prior authorizations, inbox messages, and so forth. In fact, up to 70% of our team's time is non-clinical, and patients are feeling this disconnect. I've worked with virtual staffing for over 10 years, and when we started implementing virtual team members into our practice, it changed everything. And then when we found team, everything changed. They helped us choose and support the right people. Now a virtual team handles documentation, prior authorizations, patient communication, phone calls, and scheduling. For more times with your patients, more energy for your team, visit hireteam.com. That's HIRETEEM.com, hireteam.com to get you back in your practice in 2026.
So, welcome everybody, and Dr. Ashley Tucker, thank you so much for being on the episode today. I had good opportunity of being on the contact lens and cornea section with Ashley for several years. Ashley, for those people that are on the podcast that may not know you, your practice setting, can you give a little bit of a background on yourself?
Sure. So I am fortunate enough to practice in the what I call the Dirty South in Houston. I have a wonderful practice in Bel Air, which is a little sub pocket right in the middle of Houston. So there's six of us in the practice. Three of us are partners, and then three associates. I primarily practice myopia management and specialty contact lenses, but I have a good mix of general optometry. I was telling you before, Mila, such a breath of fresh air just to deal with some normal refractions and things. And then I also have quite a bit of clinical research going on in my practice concurrently, which maybe we'll dive into that a little bit deeper, but that's a whole developing part of my practice that I feel so honored to be a part of.
We are going to definitely spend some time on that, Ashley. But before we jump into that, so with all the clinicians in your office, have you guys kind of like carved out a little areas of niches where like each of you have maybe your own passions in different places in optometry? And do you guys
Yeah.
kind of do intra-office referrals, et cetera?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say we set out to do that, right? It just kind of happened. So one of my partners is about 25 years older than me. So she was the original owner. Her passion is vision therapy,
Hmm.
binocular vision issues. So she created a practice that was centered around that. Her first partner, who's a little bit older than me, she came in and kind of created a secondary subspecialty within binocular vision. She was only going to see kids. And then somehow they both had the grand idea to get me in to do specialty contact lenses and myopia management. So that just all naturally melded together
Wow.
better than I could have ever
Wow.
imagined. There are
Wow.
already a ton of kids. Of course, they were becoming myopic, so I handled that. And then specialty lenses kind of trickled in as I developed my passion for orthokeratology and things like that. So after that, we then hired three associate doctors. One specializes in dry eye. That's her primary focus. Our TBI clinic grew a lot within that binocular vision subspecialty. So our next associate focuses on that. And then we have a doctor that really just loves geriatric care, hand holding our older patients and dealing with the disease management that comes along with that.
That is absolutely awesome. And when you talk about full scope optometry and really kind of being able to cater to that specialty that you're really passionate about, that's ultimately what you guys have created, which is great. You get a chance to
Yeah,
do really what you have a passion, what you love doing.
so true.
The thing that I'm so interested in though, Ashley, is like, listen, you're obviously a skillful clinician. I've heard you speak several times. I've had a chance to interact with you personally
Mhm.
on different cases. But you've started this clinical research segment within your practice. So tell the audience, like, if somebody's out there and think about Ashley Tucker 10, 15 years ago, what advice would you give them? And I think the best thing to do would be to share your story on how you actually started that in your office.
Sure. So once you find your niche, once you have created something within your practice that is hardy, you have a lot of patients, companies will start looking for sites that have what they're looking for. So what many companies want me for are my myopia patients. They know I have a lot of them, and they know if I'm managing myopia, I have a variety of different types of patients. So a company came to me initially and asking me if I would be willing to test out a soft contact lens that is actually on the market now. It's Natural View multifocal, and see if I can get their one of their clinical trials going here in the U.S. And I was nervous. I was kind of
So wait a
conflicted. I
second,
said,
Ashley, they
yeah.
approached you, didn't seek out this opportunity. They
No,
approached you because they knew you from reputation.
yeah, they knew I had the
Wow.
patient base that they were looking for.
Yep.
So I didn't want to do it at first, Mila. I honestly, because it takes the doctoring out of myopia management. You then become a principal investigator, and that was really, really hard. But what I realized is that I could be a part of something huge. I could be a part of a
Hmm.
lens coming to market that could help a whole breast of children. Like I got really excited about the science. I nerded out about that part. So I took it on, and it turns out our site was able to recruit more patients than any other site in the US
Wow.
because we had such a big patient base
Wow.
looking for management. Whether it was in a clinical trial or not, I just presented what I had available. Look, we can go this route. We can manage the myopia aggressively in this way, or you could be a part of this clinical trial. Granted, you could be a part of the placebo, which was really difficult. That was a difficult conversation. But I realized some patients opt for the placebo by not doing anything. So
Yeah.
getting in a
Yeah.
trial,
Right.
it increases their odds of getting treatment. So it was
Hmm.
a win-win for those kinds of patients.
It is kind of interesting, and being part of studies myself, like it is a unique place that you're in because you do kind of, when the study's being set up and when you're learning about it, you really understand why they need our expertise in that same breadth. You start feeling much more like a technician because you're
Mhm.
following instructions
Right,
and you're masked and you don't necessarily know what
right.
these patients are going to be subjected to. But the one thing for me, Ashley, and I don't know if this happened to you, I remember before I was doing clinical research in the office, I used to ask questions about research very differently before I did clinical research than after I was part of the process. And I realized how much stops and controls are in place to make sure that the data that they are actually accumulating from these sites is good and pure.
Right.
And I remember how much effort and work it actually took to do that. That again, you just ask in a much more respectful tone after you've been part of a process.
After you've been a part, absolutely. You
Yeah.
appreciate what goes into
Yeah.
what bringing something to market actually entails.
So Ashley, so you did this study. How long was the study for?
That particular study was 3 years long. So it was a very big commitment. So during
Yeah.
that time, I only had that study. I focused on that. In the meantime, well, at first I thought I could do it myself. I thought I could be the study coordinator, the doctor, all that. No, I had to actually hire additional staff to really help me do
Mhm.
this in a way that I would feel proud about. So I hired
Mhm.
a study coordinator during that time when we were growing. And then it just became a trickle effect. Once people found out I was part of this trial, then I got continuously asked to do more and more to the point where I had to turn down quite a few. But if you're interested in getting started, maybe something won't fall into your lap. But I really think if you just tell your reps that you're interested in being part of a clinical trial, they'll
Yeah.
put you on a list, this master list of
Yeah.
wonderful sites. And I really think you can get your foot in the door that way.
It's remarkable, like the sales consultants, the sales reps, the people that are in
Hmm.
our offices, they're really the conduit to
Oh, yeah.
additional relationships with these companies. And a lot of time people don't even think about like a lot of times the sales reps, the sales consultants have a difficult time getting into offices, but they
That's
really
so
are a
true.
conduit to really partnering and forging better relationships with these companies as well, too. So, Ashley, tell me what the biggest surprise was. Like when you got into it, you're like, okay, this is the first thing I really want to make sure that I'm doing this right. What was like on the back end of this, like looking back at it, the biggest surprise where you're like, I didn't realize X.
Ooh, gosh, tons. There's a lot of quality control, a lot of making sure your records are top notch, just making sure you are getting, like you said earlier, quality data. It's easy to get into the routine and just take a shortcut. No, absolutely not. We have to do everything the way that it's supposed to be done. The blinded
Mhm.
person has to stay blind. There's just a set of rules that cannot be sacrificed. So I actually had to get rid of a study coordinator because she wanted to cut corners a little bit for efficiency. So that became a very big ethical issue. So it's the back end, like you said, the things. It's not just gathering the data; it's making sure you're getting good quality metrics for the company that's hired you essentially to be a quality site for them.
Ashley, when you're doing this for this first study, and again, take you back
Way
to not
back.
where you are right
Okay.
now, but that first
Mhm.
study. Were you trying to see these study patients during a regular clinical day?
Of
Did you have a
course.
separate day?
Oh no, Mila. I thought I could see my normal schedule and then see my study patients in between. Absolutely not. So that went on for maybe a month. And then I realized, no, I'm going to have a study day. So then I took, because we launched the first study during the summer and it was all kids. So it was super easy. All day Thursday is when we're going to see study patients. What
Oh,
we didn't think of, well, these kids are going back to school. So
yeah.
Thursday was not going to work. So then we had to block off certain afternoon after school spots. So this was an evolving process. I was unbelievably naive to what it takes to be a good site. So yeah, old
So,
Ashley, horrible. Do not recommend.
but it's good. It's those lessons that made you who you are right now. That's a good thing.
Yeah,
You should cherish and embrace
exactly.
those things. So, Ashley, now are you at a phase where you're doing one clinical study at a time? Or do
Okay.
you have multiple studies going on?
Okay, that's a great question. I have multiples going on, but they're all very different. I have another really big one, a 4-year trial for spectacles going on for myopia control, and then I will take on little short ones for a totally different demographic. So I love presbyopia studies too, so I'll take on a couple of those. But I really only like to have two going at a time, one big one, and then maybe a little one here and there. Because the
And
patient population that I'm recruiting for primarily is the same. So I don't want to just totally drain my patient or study subject pool.
and Ashley, so again, I'm asking you specifically with the person
Sure.
that's listening to this saying, I want to be a part of something like this. How important was it for you, and even now when you're looking at studies to say, yep, I can meet the criteria that they're looking for and I can recruit these patients versus I really need to be honest with myself and realize that I'm not going to be able to recruit the patients for this.
Okay. This
And
is such a great question, Mila.
yeah,
Yeah, that's the trick right here, or the truth. You have got to be honest with yourself. It's we're all A++ personalities, I think. We're all overachievers, but I really have to sit with myself and my study coordinator and say, look, this is what I can do. This is what I can commit to. And one thing is you can negotiate. They may ask you, do you think you can recruit 50 subjects? No, I really don't. I really think I can recruit 25. And if that's your number, they can take it or leave it. You definitely don't ever want to overcommit and underdeliver ever. You want to do the opposite. Undercommit and overdeliver. They're super happy with that, but they're not happy with the opposite.
I was going to ask you, Ashley, have you ever been in a situation in a clinical trial where you look back and you say, I really, I really didn't deliver the best version of my clinical research site to this practice. And what guidance could you give somebody in that sense, if that
I
ever
I, I
happened?
feel like the quality for us is always fantastic. I have definitely underestimated how much personnel I would need to recruit because recruiting takes quite a bit of time. That's really a full-time job for someone during the recruiting phase. So yes, there have been times where I have said I can recruit a certain number and we've had to go with our tail between our legs and say, look, we've tapped out. There's nothing else we can do. But most companies are so grateful for what you can offer. So that's not going to be a hard no. That's not going to put you on a blacklist for clinical trials. Honesty is always the best policy. If you're realizing you're not going to meet the quota, just let them know. And sometimes they'll step up their game and help you recruit in ways that you can't even imagine. So that's good too.
So, Ashley, how long have you been doing this now in your office where you've brought in the clinical research along with private practice?
Yeah, so really it's pretty new still. It's about 6 years is when we started. So we went from absolutely nothing one day to recruiting for a humongous 4-year trial and pretty successfully. So when you put your mind to it, you can absolutely do it, but don't make the mistakes I did. Just the main thing is hire one key person or just repurpose a key person in your practice to be your right-hand person doing this. You cannot do it alone.
So Ashley, I'm going to ask you one final question here.
Uh-oh.
So somebody's listening to this and they're saying, I want to be Ashley Tucker. I
Oh
own a
God.
practice and I want to do clinical research
Okay.
like she does. What's the one nugget, the one takeaway where you're like, this is the most important thing for you to get started? This piece of advice right here.
Okay. Make sure it's a trial that you actually care about. It's a topic that you care about. It is a endeavor that you are passionate about. Otherwise, you'll get burnout on it. You're not going to feel motivated. You're not going to like interacting with the patients. So, or the subjects, I should say, excuse me. So just pick a trial that you're going to be really interested if this product comes to market. That will just internally help you be motivated to do the very best that you can do.
Ashley, you are a phenom for the profession, and you're just an awesome person. Your energy is always like absolutely great, and we appreciate you. And thank you for taking time out of your day to be on the show.
My pleasure, really.
And thank you all for joining us on this episode of the OI Show.